it also robs you of so much, because it's like you can never know who you would have been without it. I don't know if that makes sense. And it makes me sad that you noticed a change in me. Not because you wouldn't, because you're with me every day, but I think that, I don't know, what you had just said, it makes me think, like, I don't know how to put it. I don't know how to put it without it making me cry. But, like, is it a bad thing? Like, are you upset that I'm not the same person that you got to know? You know?
Not
like,
at all. I'm saddened by it.
I'm sorry.
I'm sad because I feel like you lost something of yourself, a piece of yourself.
Hi, this is Annamaria Scaccia, and I want to welcome you to a very special episode of Kidney Cancer Unfiltered. If you followed my journey or listened to season 1, then you've heard me talk about my partner Sam and my son Kelly often. They're the loves of my life, and they've been there from the beginning. When I was first diagnosed with chromophore renal cell carcinoma in 2020, and then when I was diagnosed with papillary thyroid carcinoma in 2023. I wanted to give them both an opportunity to talk about what they've experienced over the last 4 years. Because at the end of the day, this is not just my cancer journey. So we took to the kitchen table, pulled out our Uno cards, and played a very chaotic game while opening up to each other. Some things we've talked about before, other things were a bit of a revelation, but at the end of the day, we were able to get out the things that we needed to say and come to a deeper understanding of everything that we were feeling. So I hope as you listen to this, you can relate to some of what we're saying, and it helps you feel some type of closure that you might need to feel, or you are able to better understand your loved ones and your caregivers. But most importantly, I hope you can feel the love, because there's so much love between the three of us. So, thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy. The whole point of this episode for listeners is to get an inside look into the hostess life with cancer. And so it's going to be that type of conversation. So everyone's heard me talk about Sam quite often on this podcast and our experiences together while we have gone through 2 cancers. I know you and I have talked privately, obviously, a lot about my cancer, about my cancers. But what, I guess, during the first time, like, what were you, like, what did you go through? No. When you learned that or that it was even a possibility?
I think I was surprised. I think I was surprised. I believed that, or had the impression that, if cancer were to be found in someone our age, that it would be maybe more slowly progressing. But bring it back to when we first learned about it, I didn't want to believe that it was cancer, and that I think part of me was hoping it wasn't. I mean, just because I was hoping there'd be a more, what I felt was common case type of answer, that cancer was maybe more rare. And so in the aftermath of, the diagnosis and whatnot, I think I was looking to find a way to best support you, but also have it make sense and whatnot. And I think watching you go through a lot of emotions and reactions to it, and not necessarily knowing how to provide some type of hope, I think was difficult.
Yeah, I'd say, I think that's probably what made the first go around, and the fact that I can say the first go around is a bit still hard to swallow. It's because you are just naturally inclined to be a solver of problems. Mm-hmm. And I don't think, or rather I know my cancer wasn't something to be solved, right? Like the way I felt about it wasn't something to be solved. And I think that's probably why the first time around was just so really hard. Because I think too, I'm even though I see my older sister go through cancer and I was there as a part of her support system, it's quite different when you're the one with cancer. Mm-hmm. And I still don't know how to do cancer. And I know that there's no right or wrong way to be a cancer survivor, but like you said, kidney cancer is not exactly something a 37-year-old woman gets on average. And then I had a urologist who made sure to point that out. And he was a great urologist. Nothing against my urologist, but, he was just really as shocked. Yeah, he was just as shocked as everybody else. And just, I was stage 1. So then there was that guilt of not being, stage 4. Not that, I'm grateful that I was stage 1, but it's still to this day, it's just this feeling that I can't or shouldn't talk about my cancer experience, because I should just be grateful that I'm stage 1. And I think the first time around, I was just grappling with how to even just understanding my own emotions. That, I don't know, it was a lot. It was a lot. And yeah. Kelly, how did you feel?
Scared, surprised, honestly upset.
And why? What upset you most about knowing that I had cancer?
I wasn't upset, I was more sad.
Yeah, what made you sad?
Well, what made me sad is, you had cancer and I might die by it, and it just made me really scared.
Did you have anyone you could talk to during that time?
No one really talked to me besides you.
And Sam, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember, they can't see us, baby. You gotta use your words.
Sure.
True. Yeah. And what about, so what made it, I guess, what are some things that went through your head as I was going through my treatment and recovering?
That we would die.
Well, why did you think I would die?
Never see you again. Well, I know cancer can harm people. You told me that. I know cancer can harm you and other people. So I was fearing that.
And what other kind of feelings did you have with it?
How do you put this? It's anxious, overwhelmed.
Yeah. And how long? So what would so for me, watching you go through it, Kelly, or at least watching you just, it's still heartbreaking for me. Ooh, that's okay. It's still, keep it right there. It's still heartbreaking for me because there's a lot of guilt that I feel about having cancer, because I know I know that you get scared. Like, I remember one time when I first had kidney cancer, when I had my first cancer, which was kidney cancer. I remember, like, I was using the restroom and I, like, heard you start screaming my name, like screaming mama, obviously. And I know that it was because, like, you were afraid that I would be gone. And I think even recently, you know, when you told me that you follow me room to room because you want to get as much time with me as you can because I died of cancer, it makes me feel, which is not on you, right? Like, you're not supposed to make me feel better, but it just makes me feel really guilty.
Well, try to make you feel better at least.
I know you try. I'm just telling you this because, I don't know. I still feel really guilty. And I shouldn't. People with cancer shouldn't feel guilty for having cancer. But, I don't know. It's something I still carry. And I think going to your point about watching me go through it, that was part of it, right? Like, I didn't even know how to... I didn't even know how to be... I don't think I knew how to be a parent with cancer, right?
It's hard enough to take care of yourself, and then on top of that, you're still taking care of someone else. I guess to go back to listening to you talk about how you have this guilt where you, because it was stage 1, you feel like you aren't really one to speak about the cancer experience and the problem, you know, the problems or the aftermath that come with it. I get that about the the tumor itself, and you didn't go through chemo, but seeing how much you've changed in your life in order to conservatively approach the remainder of your life in terms of your salt intake and protein and whatnot, due to the fact that you had to lose an entire kidney. I feel like that really doesn't get the respect it deserves in some ways, or I feel like sometimes, because you don't associate that with your experience of cancer, because it was kind of like, oh, it's, the tumor's gone, but so is the kidney. I still see that as going hand in hand with that experience, and that even though the kidney cancer is removed and gone, that you're dealing with it for basically the rest of your life.
Yeah. And I think that's on me, because I've been thinking about that a lot lately. It's just, like, my natural inclination, since I was a kid, was just to compartmentalize, or at least since I was a young adult, was to compartmentalize, because I've gotten the message most of my life that my problems didn't really matter. And so for me, it's one of those, I think because I didn't go through chemo and I didn't go on immune therapy, and I did just have my kidney removed, right? And I just did it there. I just didn't just have my kidney removed, which is still a big thing, having a whole entire kidney removed at 37. For me, it's just like the story I told myself, and I continue to tell myself, is that it's not as big of a deal as someone else who had to go through chemo but may not have lost an organ. I think I still continue to not honor my own cancer experience. And it's like, how can I expect other people to honor my own cancer experience if I don't myself? Because I think, and even with hosting this podcast, right? Like, we talked about this before. I think for me, it's like, how can I be an advocate? Oh, well, I'll tell other people's stories. Like, other people's stories matter more than mine.
I think you've also convinced me to be a skeptic of some of the research indicating that kidney and thyroid cancer, the research saying it's not related because it seems almost like too much of a coincidence or something. But maybe that's also a reaction to lightning striking twice.
Yeah.
When the second one happened, and it almost feels like it was. It feels like it was more complicated in some ways, or in many ways, that it was more frustrating than the first one. I think compounded by the fact that it was a second form of cancer, but also the fact that not only did a surgery not solve it, that even the radioactive iodine didn't necessarily provide a foolproof remedy.
Yeah.
I feel them like here.
What were some things going through your head as I was, as a caregiver, I was trying to navigate what having cancer and like this new life of mine would mean for all of us? Were like some things that you were, I guess, experiencing? And you could be honest. So if there are things that you haven't even told me, it's a safe space.
I think in the moment it was hardest because I didn't really know what to do. I think I've avoided a lot in my own life, and so I wasn't sure how to be there for you in the best way I could, without doing something directly. And I think oftentimes what you needed was just some level of support, emotional support, and just someone that would listen. And that was, for me, myself, sure there are other people it wouldn't be difficult for, but for me, that was difficult. And that was really, I think, more of the experience after the kidney cancer diagnosis and after the surgery and everything. After the second cancer and leading up to the
audio has been bad. I should have had both in my ears.
Leading up to the second cancer and like the operation and radiation and whatnot and aftermath, I think it was that I'd come to understand how to better support you, but it was a whole new challenge, and it's as if, what I learned the first go around wasn't nearly as applicable as I'd hoped it would be. And it was like learning from scratch again, in that the challenges you were facing and things you were going through were on a whole nother level compared to when you had kidney cancer, the first cancer. And so it ended up being challenging in its own way because helping you and taking care of you after the surgery and whatnot, I felt kind of prepped for that in what it was like after you having had a kidney removed versus, having a thyroid removed. I think the radioactive iodine leading up to that and after that, it was difficult because it felt like, I don't know, I think at that point I had almost, I hate to say it, become a bit skeptical. I think because everything you were reading about it had indicated that with your type of cancer, it wasn't necessarily as effective as you know, as doctors and patients might like it to be. And so after having the thyroid removed and then going through that, it almost felt like it was like a losing battle in some ways. And I wasn't necessarily sure how to handle that, because again, I've avoided things in my own life and with my own medical kind of challenges. And so when, you know, oftentimes I felt like I needed to be the one with hope, or the one to not, you know, to kind of serve as a floor emotionally for us in some ways. And it, you know, that was hard at times, because I think I was very ready to kind of have a break from the experience, but I knew that you weren't going to get a break. And so I couldn't get a break. I wasn't going to give myself a break in that way, if that makes sense. And it was just, you know, it made me sad in that way.
I think you did better the second time around. I do think physical treatment and the physical side effects are worse with the thyroid cancer, right? Like my
long term.
Yeah, long term. Like
yeah.
The effects are worse. But I think in terms of emotionally, I think you did much better this time around supporting me than the first time around. And I think the first time around, to be honest, and we've had this discussion, like I've talked to you about this, I think I was really, really angry with you. And I tried really hard to like keep in mind that, like, okay, he's never been through a cancer experience before. Like, while, you know, I wouldn't say particularly, like, I was not the primary caregiver to my sister when she had her experience, when she went through cancer, but of the place that you were coming from. But I think, and I still am trying to even just unpack all the emotions I was experiencing around having cancer and having kidney cancer. And like also, again, feeling guilt for not being, you know, more advanced stage, or feeling guilty that I had any sadness around it, because I should have just been grateful. I think there was a lot I was and still am like holding inside. And I think I wish I had given you more grace. I wish I would have remembered what, in that moment, what it was like to be a caregiver to someone going with a condition, right? And I'd given you more space, because I know I've asked, but you hadn't talked really to anyone about my cancer, have you? Like, I don't.
No, not really. You know, especially the first time around, it was kind of just us, and so you know, I talked to my parents about what you were going through, but I didn't really talk to anybody about my experience with it. And I think the hardest part for me is that because of what I went through as a kid with my disability that started at the age of 4, that I had, I think, a very different experience with medical challenges. And I think it led me to, I think, treat this medical challenge in the same way, but ultimately that was not the right approach.
I think we gave each other the opportunity to meet in the middle at that point, because I think we were just so both stuck in our own heads about our own feelings that I should have, if I was more in the presence of mind, I should have like sat you down and was like, hey, I know this is what you're doing. This is not the same. We need to talk through it. But I think I was just in a space where I didn't want to manage your emotions, right? Like I did not want to manage how you were feeling. I wanted you to be able to do that yourself, which I also don't think was necessarily the right approach to it, because it's like, how can someone who's never been through a cancer experience manage their emotions around a cancer experience, right? And like, we could have been better partners, I think, at that time. That's why I say, like, this time around, and it's sad that we had to go through a cancer experience to know how to handle another cancer experience. Yeah. But I think, I mean, it's cancer, right? It's still going to have its hardships, and it's still going to, like, there's still going to be fears, and there's going to be worries, and there's going to still be, like, individual and unique challenges. And I think, particularly, like, with Kelly, right? Like, you know, he's a bit more vocal now. He's a bit more, like, aware of the world. He's not to talk to you like you're not here, baby. But like, so I think that adds a layer of complexity, because now it's like when he was 5, you could get away with speaking in simpler terms, but now you can't really necessarily.
And he also asks questions.
He
also wants to know more. He also, I think, is figuring out more on his own, and so he is just more aware at this point.
And I think and Kelly, you could correct us if we're wrong. I think his fears are showing up in more subtle ways. Versus when he was younger, it was like easy. It was rather like the inclination was, or natural instinct was to be just a bit more vocal, or like, you know, scream mama when he couldn't see me, or like things like that. But now it shows up with him following me room to room and talking to me, right? And like, or, you know, just, you know, things that he thinks about in terms of his life and growing up, right? You know. So Kelly, let's talk more. So when you follow me room to room, and I've talked about this on the podcast, but I want to hear it from your mouth. When you follow me room to room, why do you do that?
I want to be with you, first of all. I don't want to leave you, second of all. And I always want to spend time with you, third of all. Also, I just want to be near you.
Why do you want to be near me so much and so often?
So I get as much time as long as you can. You know what I mean. You know what I mean.
I know what you mean, and you don't. I know sometimes it's hard to get words out, but it's good for talking about it, because other kids listening might be able to relate.
Or the parents listening might be able to better understand how their kids might feel.
Yeah.
What I mean is, as much as time as you can stay on the earth.
Yeah.
I mean,
what do you wish I could do for you to make?
Stay alive.
Other than staying alive, which I plan on doing, what can we actually do for you to make this, to just help you feel better?
Be near me all the time.
Are you afraid to be away from me, away from us?
I'm fine with being away from you. It's just I want to be with you guys a lot.
I want to be with you too.
I'm not 4 anymore.
Like, I feel, I think I said it earlier, like, I feel so guilty that I had cancer either time and that I still have it. And that we even have to have this conversation. And I just want to honestly just hide away and, like, not be around you guys. Because I just feel like a burden. I guess, what would you have done differently the first time around?
Both asking about your needs and my needs, or, you know, kind of what, just being on the same page in that way. Not tough it out myself with the experience and find somebody to speak to. Or, I feel that if we hadn't had those experiences, and let's say we were having our first experience, or you were just getting diagnosed with cancer just now, I think the experience would be different.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to look back and say what I would do differently, because we weren't the same people back then.
No,
and
sure.
even you know, with aside from the cancer experience, even within our relationship.
Yeah.
And so I think it would be easier for me now to communicate with you than it was maybe back then. But I think I wish I had tried to find ways to better distract you.
Yeah. I think I would have.
Because we were stuck at home.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been nice for me to find ways to make some nights a little more special and less about the routine.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been, especially because it was I think that having cancer in the pandemic probably should be a study in and of itself, because I think I was just stuck at home. I'm 3 months. I can't really move. We tried to walk, and I barely could, like, walk 20 minutes, like, the first few times. Like, it's just, yeah. Well, what then would you tell caregivers? Like, from thinking about both experiences, like, what are the big pieces of advice that you would have?
That it's okay sometimes to put your own mask on the airplane before you put on somebody else's mask. But also that that it is important to have some in-flight entertainment, and that you are going to be the one choosing that in-flight entertainment. And there are ways to find joy in catering those experiences for the person you're taking care of. And that if you can make them smile and help them not focus on the cancer. And it's not about forgetting about it, but not focus on it all the time, that I think it would make their experience and your own a lot better.
I like a good metaphor.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you learn a lot in therapy, and honestly, like, you've done a lot of growing But like you said something about us being like different people, and I just wonder like if we hadn't gone through the kidney cancer experience, like would we actually be these different people? And like we can't do the what if game, obviously, but it's just one of those things where it's like cancer can be a blessing in disguise, right? In a way, like it makes you like rethink life and rethink your purpose. And I've talked about that before, of like, you know, how it makes me rethink like what I want in life for my career and for other things. But I think it also robs you of so much, because it's like you can never know who you would have been without it. I don't know if that makes sense. And it makes me sad that you noticed a change in me. Not because you wouldn't, because you're with me every day, but I think that, I don't know, what you had just said, it makes me think like, I don't know how to put it. I don't know how to put it without it making me cry. But like, is it a bad thing? Like, are you upset that I'm not the same person that you got to know?
No, not at all. I'm saddened by it.
I'm sorry.
I'm sad because I feel like you lost something of yourself, a piece of yourself. And I don't know how to put this without, you know, I have my own experience in my own life and whatnot, and I feel that I can relate in some way, but that part of myself that I lost was decades ago at this point.
Yeah.
And, you know, seeing you go through what you're going through, there's some similarities. And it's not easy, and there really isn't any way to provide a solution like direct help.
Yeah.
And say, take these steps and you'll be okay, right?
Yeah.
You just have to be almost silent support for the person there and help them take the steps that they need to take to get where they're going.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. It's like right before I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, I felt like maybe I was getting slightly back to not to who I was, right? Because, like, you know, you're going to be changed by the experience, but, like, to have some grounding, and then, bam, thyroid cancer, another part of my body taken from me. And it's like, I have to figure out my whole body all over again, because I'm not, like, and I think I said this, if you hear snoring in the background, that's the Chiweenie shadow. You may or may not hear it, but he is an old man, and he is going.
He's snoring away.
He is snoring away. But I think it's just, it's in a completely different experience. And, like, I don't know. Like, I don't have the same energy, and I don't feel the same. And I think that's a conversation for another day, because I know we're running long. So back to wrapping it up.
Please don't cut out this part, but my dogs and cats say bye. Meow.
And do you say bye?
Bye.
Was this a good conversation?
Yeah.
Were you glad that you got to talk?
Yeah.
I know you got a little tired and a little upset with the death conversation. I'm sorry about that.
It's good.
Is there anything you want to say before we go?
I want to say kitty.
Kitty. Okay. You just wanted to say kitty.
Yes. If you
I'm
ever
surprised
get
it's not
sad,
Skibbity.
buy a kitty.
If you
There
ever
you
get
go.
that, adopt a kitty. Yes.
Buy one,
Well,
find one.
But yes, you have to pay for the adoption. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, both of you, for talking with us. Did it was it okay?
Yeah, I'm glad we got to talk and share. I feel like there's some things that we hadn't really discussed directly, and this wasn't necessarily a bad. It was not a bad environment or place to do it.
Yeah.
And I think it's it's important to talk about these things, and it's okay to be vulnerable. And I hope there's some wisdom in there that our experiences can offer others in the present and future.